We have all heard the legends of the game that is quite possibly the best of all time. Everyone who has played Ocarina of Time can't deny its legacy, and everyone who hasn't played it is simply just missing out. And of all the things that make this game so great, it's the lineup of dungeons that stand out the most. And today we find out which of them are the best. There are 9 main dungeons in Ocarina of Time, but not all of them are tip-top quality, and Jabu's belly is one of these. I can, however, appreciate the creativity of this place and how the boomerang is used to decode the pathways by defeating the different colored tentacles in order to progress further in the dungeon. But the atmosphere of this place gets really old really fast. After losing Ruto and backtracking to get here several times, dragging this dungeon on and on and on, man was I ever happy to leave this place. The Water Temple kind of gets a bad reputation. Sure, it's annoying switching to iron boots on and off thousands of times, and getting lost sucks sour ass. But this place has a lot going for it. For starters, it houses one of the best mini-bosses ever in Darkling, with the nice touch of watching your shadow disappear as you walk over the tree island. And of course, the atmosphere and the music of this dungeon is simply beautiful. Very relaxing and zen, like listening to glistening water trickle down a creek. And it's a good thing too. Because could you imagine how irritating this dungeon would be if the walls were bland and an irksome tune resonated throughout this place while you constantly had to go in and out of the menu screens, equipping iron boots and trying to figure out where in the bluest of hells you are and where you need to go, ultimately driving you to brush your teeth with a pistol? See? Could be worse. The first 3 dungeons in this game are here to ease you into the scene of third-dimensional gaming, so there isn't a lot to them. But Dungloe Cavern has this feel to it that makes it seem like a bigger place than it really is. Maybe it's the large open room where you drop bombs into the Dungloe statue's eyes, or maybe it's the addition of lava pits and more intimidating enemies. Either way, this dungeon is quite memorable. Within the first 15 minutes of booting up the game, you are thrust into the Great Deku Tree. And for the vast majority of Zelda fans, this was the first time experiencing a Zelda dungeon in 3D. This was a pivotal moment not only for the Zelda franchise, but the rest of gaming. This was also the first time getting a dungeon item that you could actually aim in first-person view wherever you wanted in the form of a slingshot. Welcome to 3D Zelda, boys and girls, it's here to stay. Also, the sheer verticality of inside the Deku Tree and dropping through the spider's web was more than enough to cement it as a legendary moment and a fantastic dungeon, given what it had to operate. Being the last dungeon in the game, Gavins Castle is a nice place to wrap up the story and revisit many areas to review what you've learned along the way. It doesn't add anything new, and why should it? You're right about to end the game, there's no reason to introduce anything else. There won't be any time to enjoy it. The only thing left is to enjoy this cool temple where each stage, both individually and collectively, are put to use to allow you to ascend this tower and take down the bad guy and bring home the girl. You just can't complain about an epic finish to a story like that. In my top Skyward Sword dungeons, I mentioned that I didn't care much for fire levels. They are typically bland. However, this place adds some backstory with Ganon locking away the Gorons and feeding them to the dragon Volvagia, the boss of the dungeon, who can only be defeated by the hero holding the legendary Megaton Hammer, which conveniently is the dungeon item. Pretty cool how it all ties together. The hammer is also put to good use with some cool cutscenes and Megaton moments like dropping the pillar from the top floor and riding it down to the bottom. And for each Goron you rescue, they give you bonus points and hints to help you get through the temple, which gives you incentive to rescue all of them, even though I'm pretty sure you have to anyway. But at least now I care, and it's not just a useless detour of a task. It's funny how little things like that can make all the difference. The only thing bad about the Forest Temple is that you're still new to the game and your health bar isn't quite up to the task of taking on the increased difficulty curve. This dungeon is also kind of a maze, going back and forth and up and down several times, trying to figure out where to go and what to do. So far, this doesn't seem like a temple worthy of a number 3 spot, right?
Wrong.
But this is where the Forest Temple really shines. Or unshines, rather. Because of its dark tone, creepy music, and curious nature, this place continues to be interesting and a joy to investigate, even though the circles you run in it would drive you mad in any other temple. Toss in the different ways to catch the Poe Sisters and the hero's bow as the item, and the corridors that are more twisted than the very temple itself, and we have ourselves an iconic dungeon that will live on for years to come. For as much of a wimp I am when it comes to horror movies, I for some reason tend to like dark dungeons in Zelda games. And the Shadow Temple is no exception. The threat of danger is imminent, with all the scythes and guillotines chopping about, as well as the skulls and symbols of death that is draped all over the temple. But what really makes this dungeon so great though is the use of the items you acquire in and just before the temple. The Lens of Truth lets you see things that are visible to the naked eye, like hidden doors, chests, and pathways over pits that lead you to secret rooms. Pretty cool. And I've seen the iron boots used before in several different Zelda games, but I never once thought to myself that the opposite could also be obtained. So as a big fan of the Back to the Future movies, you can only imagine how I lost my mind when I discovered the hover boots. And let's not forget about riding atop the boat across the river of fog while duking it out with the Stalfos just before you head on to take out the boss. And good God, I almost forgot about Dead Hand. Kinda wish I did. I love ancient Egypt. The mystery of ancient relics always intrigued me. It was almost magical in a way. Like, did they know something we didn't? It's hard to tell. I like to think so, though. This is probably why I enjoy the Mummy movies so much. Nothing beats an adventure with ancient magical relics. And from the moment I walked up to the Desert Colossus and into the Spirit Temple, hearing its amazing theme resonating off all the desert architecture scattered about, I was instantly hooked. It was strange, too. Almost nostalgic in a way. Which is very weird considering that the first time I played this game was at the tender age of 25. But aside from the surreal atmosphere, the Spirit Temple also has the double item awesomeness, and you must complete the dungeon in 2 stages, one as Child Link and one as Adult Link, with each item symbolizing each part of the temple. The silver gauntlets increase your strength after venturing through the temple as a child so you can grow into a man, and the mirror shield reflects back to your youth as you're older. Fusing your spirit of time both as the young and the old, deep out in the ancient desert of the West. I guess the nostalgia doesn't seem so weird after all. I mean, it is the Spirit Temple. Maybe it knows something we don't. This has been Mabus, and after going through this list, it's no surprise that Ocarina of Time has held up for 2 decades. It definitely set the bar for 3D Zelda dungeons, and the games that followed were certainly up to the task. But that's a video for later. So in the meantime and in between time, stay tuned for more.